Hey everybody, it's time for another Convos with Kim. It's been a while since we did one of those. I think we skipped last month. But this is where my twin sister gets the floor. And so, yeah, I guess I will just turn it over to her and I'll put in my 2 cents every now and then.
Okay, so I think I'm mostly in the dark right now. The light is clear across the room, and I'm kind of sitting here by the window. I think there might still be a little light coming in there, but if not, I guess you'll just have to pretend that you're blind and can't see me. Um, but today I'm going to talk about implicit bias, and that's obviously, and we all know that we have biases, but most of them, like we might realize that we have a bias against just a certain kind of music or a certain type of person or whatever. But the implicit biases are the ones that we don't even realize that we have, and they can just kind of hit us by surprise now and then. Um, so I would say that none of us like implicit biases or stereotypes being applied to us. And that's why we say things like, well, I'm a Baptist, but I don't believe everything that they teach. Or we might say, I'm a Trump supporter, but I held my nose when I voted for him. We just like feeling like we're the individual, we're the exception who doesn't fit the rule or the stereotype that somebody might apply to us. Like back in the day, I was in this Christian debate email group where nobody would just come out and say what they were. They would just say, like, I'm my own flavor of Christian. Um, but we could usually suss out over time what group the person actually belonged to, what denomination or whatever, because they usually adhered pretty closely to whatever that they had been taught growing up or whatever their denomination taught. Um, but that's just an example. Like we all know that we want to be thought of as an individual. Like they just didn't want us judging them according to what we thought we knew about their denomination. That's why people are usually like kind of reluctant to tell us what group they're a part of.
In a way, that makes sense though. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see why somebody would do that. And I mean, I've even done it because I don't want to be thought of as just going along with what, like, even somebody who the very term of the group means that you don't belong to a group, like moderate, for example. Then you get the stereotype of, oh, they just go whatever way the wind blows and they don't really believe anything. So it's like you can't win whether you say what group you belong to or you don't or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, once you say the group, then there's going to be all kinds of like judgments that come along with
Mhm.
that. So, since we know that we don't like people doing that to us, it should be our goal, I guess, to try not to do that to other people. Because we know that everyone that we encounter would like to be seen as an individual also, and not just judged according to preconceived notions about their group. And
Yeah,
some
and
of those,
even though of course groups play a purpose, we need to like d have those demarcations, but yeah, also see the individual too.
yeah, like I mean, yeah, it's helpful to, we can't just start judging everybody totally um from scratch. I mean, it's helpful to know like what their group is. So we know, just like in that email group, it would have been helpful to just know from the outset like where people were coming from. I think we wouldn't have had so many like misunderstandings or whatever. It's just helpful to have like a starting basis, I guess, but we just have to realize when we're doing that to other people that it is just a starting point. It's uh like we probably have a lot of things wrong about that group that we think we know about, and we probably have a lot of things wrong that we think about the individual in that group. Like I'm blind and I often have people coming up to me to tell me about their friend or their cousin or their aunt or somebody in their life who is blind. And I usually can tell like almost immediately how well they actually knew this other blind person in their life, because the better they actually know another blind person, the less assumptions they're going to make about me. I mean, they're going to know that I'm not like this other person that they know, and they're going to treat me more as an individual. But if they just kind of happen to have a couple of blind people in their life in passing that they think they know about just from kind of seeing them at a distance, then they're going to make those same assumptions about me, because they'll just see me as like nothing but a blind person. Like the blindness is the only thing about me that they see. And of course, like I was saying, that's like understandable. If you see somebody that reminds you of somebody else, you know, in some way, you are going to make assumptions about them. And blindness is a big thing about me that people are going to notice. But there are a lot of other big and small things about me that maybe aren't as obvious, at least until you get to know me. And the things that they think they know about blind people from having known one other blind person don't always necessarily apply to me. Like I might do things totally differently than their blind friend, or I might not agree that a guide dog is better than a cane, or I might enjoy cooking while maybe their friend was intimidated or afraid of hot stoves or whatever and didn't cook, or maybe they just didn't enjoy cooking for reasons that had little to do with their blindness. Like even Connie and I are twins, and she doesn't really enjoy, I guess, mostly the time that it takes to cook. Um,
Yep, I've
she,
just gotten lazy and got in habits of when I really didn't have time. I mean, now I actually do have time, but I've just, yeah, I don't like to take the time to cook anything.
like now, if you're mostly cooking for yourself, I can see that. Like I don't cook as much either now that I'm just cooking for myself, but I will usually cook maybe one or two meals a week. I'll just cook enough for a meal to last me several days. I don't mind eating on a meal for several days. Um, but I also just enjoy like experimenting with different things. Like I've gotten meal kits like Home Chef and stuff like that, where they'll send you a like all the ingredients for a certain recipe, and then they'll also send you the recipe. You usually get that by email. So like the day that your box comes in the mail, they have it all coordinated that you'll get your recipe in the email the same day that you get this box. So I just kind of enjoy doing that and getting like different ideas about things I can cook. And then once I've cooked it a few times, I can just do it on my own without even getting the meal kit. Or I can just kind of apply what I've learned and branch out and kind of apply it in other ways or whatever. And I've enjoyed having my son with me this summer, so I had somebody to cook for again. So I've tried out a couple more of those meals. And recently I even got an air fryer. And so I've enjoyed experimenting with that. And it makes a lot of things just easier and more fun to cook.
I didn't
And I
even know this.
know I'll have to tell you guys about it on our next Skype call. But yeah, that's been fun. And I enjoy making drinks in the morning. Like I'm just getting a mix of cappuccino and hot chocolate and coffee, and mixing it all just right so it tastes good, and maybe put a little whipped cream on top or cinnamon or something like that. And I made Connie one of those drinks when she was here visiting me, and she was just like going, "Why bother?" Because I kept on like just stirring different things in and trying to get it just right. And she was like, why bother taking all that time just to make a drink? And I'm
You
just
know, it
going, well,
ruins
why
the
not?
pleasure of drinking it when you know how much work went into it.
Yeah, so like, and I'm just going, well, I enjoy the process, but plus it's just fun to have a nice warm drink in the morning. But yeah, she didn't see it that way. And so I guess, yeah, the moral of that story is don't assume that blind people like to cook or don't like to cook, because even identical twins don't feel the same about that. So um that's why like I was saying, these biases, the implicit biases that I'm going to talk about, are the ones that are that we don't even realize we have. Like a good example of that would be this riddle. It's a father and a son are in a car accident. The father dies, and the son is rushed to the hospital, and he's about to get an operation done. And the surgeon exclaims, "Oh no, that's my son. I won't be able to operate on him. I'm way too close to the situation. We'll need another surgeon." And so the riddle is, how can that be that the surgeon said they can't operate because that's their son? We already said that the father and son were together in the accident and the father died. Um, so this riddle has
Hmm.
been presented to many groups. Have you heard it before, Con?
Nope.
Do you know the answer?
No, unless it's like a stepfather or something.
Wow, see, so we have this example right in front of us. Yeah, this riddle has been presented. I mean, I've heard it before, and the first time I heard it, I'm sure I didn't really know the answer either. The most recent time that it was, I don't know if it was the most recent, but there was just a study done in 2021, so like 4 years ago, and they asked this questions to college students, and they gave all kinds of guesses, like the surgeon was a stepfather, the surgeon was an adoptive father, the surgeon was a second father in a same-sex marriage, or maybe it was a dream and not reality, or while the son was in the operating room, he died and he saw the surgeon and it was his dad's ghost. The father that was killed was actually a priest, so that's why he was called father. So yeah, get one more chance, Con. You don't know the answer?
So once you tell me, it's gonna seem very
Yeah, you'll
obvious.
feel very dumb and bad and
Oh
everything.
no. I don't want to waste time here trying to think, but now I'm curious. Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
it has a very simple and straightforward, obvious answer.
so the father said, I can't operate on him. I'm too close to the situation. I need somebody else to operate on
The
him.
surgeon took a look at who was in the room, and the surgeon said, "Oh, that's my son. I can't operate on him." And the answer is the surgeon was the son's mother.
Oh,
Once
well,
you've heard the answer, it just seems so obvious.
yeah, and not one person usually ever guesses it.
I think it was like in this last one, it's a little better than usual. I think like a third of them got it right, but two-thirds of them still had no idea.
Probably at like a feminist meeting or something like that. Most
Oh, it's
people
just a
would,
regular random group of college students. But yeah, like another kind of group, it probably would be different. But
yeah, but that is funny. But I mean, in a way, I guess I can see why, because it's just a fact that there are more male surgeons. But yeah, it is kind of
I mean,
interesting.
when you have a question like that possibility doesn't even pop into your head.
Yeah, your head. Yeah.
Like that's just an example of an implicit bias that you don't even realize you have. You're just automatically assuming that the surgeon is going to be male. And
Wow.
so you just wonder like how these college students could have gotten it wrong, even as liberal and whatever as they supposedly are and open-minded and all that, but they didn't even get the right answer. And is it because they have a secret hatred toward women or are chauvinists? And I would say no. I mean, at least not consciously. It's just that their brain did what our brains do. Maybe they haven't seen a lot of female surgeons, so it just didn't occur to them. They just jumped to the automatic association that their brain did of the surgeon being male. So hopefully that'll get better in years to come because hopefully we'll start seeing more female surgeons. So younger brains will be able to make the different associations. But it's amazing how long these things can stick with us. I mean, because obviously women have been surgeons for decades now, but just because we don't happen to see them in our life, that possibility doesn't even occur to us.
I wonder how easy it is to Google the answer nowadays since it's been asked to so many groups and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard it like even before I was married. I mean, I heard it like 30 years ago and yeah, so I'm sure it's out there now, but um those are the kinds of tricks that our brains can play on us all the time that we're totally unaware of until it's pointed out to us, like a lot of the racism that occurs these days isn't so explicit anymore like racism used to be and still is in some areas, but for the most part, it's just these implicit assumptions that people make that they don't even aren't even aware of. So maybe we should use a word other than racism that's not so triggering, but still it all like stems from racist beliefs. Um, Nowadays, thankfully, we've grown out of these, like our animal nature that naturally mistrusts or even hates people that look different than us or that are in other groups. But we still have a lot of assumptions that we make about other groups that we don't know well. Like employers, it has been studied and proven that employers can have this bias, or at least before it has been like recently talked about so much or whatever, employers would just automatically reject people in certain groups based on their last name. Um, so we've combated that now by giving the victim group like first chance or first priority. We call that affirmative action. And that's just so that the employer will have to think twice before they just reject somebody out of hand for a bias that they have. Um, and of course, we can combat this on a more personal level by getting to know people in those other groups. Like I was in a email group about 10 years ago. It was a political group, and I just
Oops,
took
what
a
happened?
drink. I just took a drink. There was a few black people in this group, mostly one that I got to know really well. But I kind of cringe now looking back to think how ignorant I was and things I said back then, like when I was first getting to know him and the other black people that would sometimes share their stories or how they were feeling about things. Um, and I got upset at first about what I called their victim mentality. Like I said, well, I'm blind. Surely that's worse than being black. Um, Surely being black is not harder than being blind. But then I got to know them more and understood where they were coming from and their issues. And in some ways, I would say it is harder. I mean, you can get shot for being black, basically. I've never heard of a blind person getting shot for being blind. I mean, it's just kind of like comparing apples and oranges. Like their problems are just so different than mine. I can't even really say like that one is worse or overall, like one set of problems is worse than the other because it's just completely different. Um, like he, like a lot of the problems are generational. Like, and literally, if your great 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 grandfather was enslaved, literally like worked for somebody else for free and was just used and abused like all their lives. And then once slavery ended, I mean, then they started trying to crawl their way up. I mean, they didn't get any help at all. They were just basically left to their own devices to try to figure out how to get land, how to get work, just everything they had to do from scratch. And then they have to then the next generation maybe did a little better than that, but then the KKK came along and they were the most powerful like in the 1920s, so they would just go around and like if you finally made it so that you had your own business as a black person, they would literally just come and burn your business down or kill you or just whatever. It was a horrible time, so then you had to start from scratch again, so we can't just expect the last couple of generations that are trying to crawl their way out of that, we can't just expect them to be equal, at least with their opportunities. They don't have the same opportunities. They still have a lot of that poverty. Um, and then let me just say that you, as an individual black person, maybe you have finally, you just through grit and determination, you've finally worked your way up and been able to go to college where you were surrounded probably by a lot of white people, and maybe you just wanted to get out of your black neighborhood where there's a lot of poverty and whatnot. So then you go to a white neighborhood where you're surrounded by white people and who probably have a lot of prejudices against you or are just have grown up totally differently than you. They just have totally different customs and traditions and whatnot. So you're still kind of the outsider there. Or maybe then you decide to stick to your black neighborhood where you grew up, or just another kind of black neighborhood where you can be around people that are more like you. But if you stay there, then you're still around so much of the poverty and all the problems that that entails. So yeah, and there's just like generational trauma that it affects your DNA and your on a cellular level, your emotions and all that is just kind of hard to escape. So he explained a lot of that to us. And then this man in this email group, he just told us a lot of stories. Like one story he told us was about being a college student walking home at like around midnight. He was just calmly walking home across, down the street or whatever. And out of the blue, these two policemen, I don't know if it was probably even too dark at the time for him to know they were policemen at first, but they rushed him and tackled him and just threw him down on the ground. And they just put a knee in his back and everything and held him there. And like they pulled his head back by the hair and were just demanding, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Like they were just all accusational before they even knew who he was or why he was there. I mean, I've never had experience just walking down a sidewalk and having somebody throw me to the ground like that.
Yeah, I mean, but and you also never know. I mean, I'm certainly not on the side of like, did you say this was policemen that did this or just random people or
Oh, just two policemen. They just threw him to the ground and started patting him down. Um,
yeah, and I mean, like you don't know the experiences that the police officers might have encountered in their life either or whatever, but of course that's not an excuse because yeah, you still have to assume that the person's innocent and especially like more and more now. I mean, some of these stereotypes have just been proven wrong way more often than not, and so you would think they would like, and I think some in some neighborhoods at least they are more cautious because they know that there's going to be pushback if they do that. But yeah, wow.
if you're that traumatized by a black person walking
Yeah,
down the
then
street, you shouldn't be a police officer.
yeah.
Um, and they just kicked him and they just totally roughed him up, like kicked him, kicked his ribs, and then they just left him there. Like there was no explanation or anything. They didn't say like, "Oh, you're innocent" or whatever. They just kind of got done and then just left. Like no apologies, nothing. They just kind of decided they had the wrong person, I guess, and just kind of went away. And the next day, he did go to the police station and filled out like a police report. And somebody came and gave him a lame explanation. Then, like, well, they were looking for somebody else that you resembled. I mean, I doubt that. They were probably black like the other person, but regardless, you just can't treat somebody like that. I'm sure they could have handcuffed him or whatever and not just roughed him up and threw him to the ground like that.
Right.
Um,
Although this kind of is different from your main topic, which is implicit bias, because this is more like blatant
yeah,
bias. So I
exactly.
think it
It's
gets
more
trickier when it is like when you just do act a different way towards somebody without even really it's just more subconscious or just because of your experiences or whatever. But yeah.
yeah, like and that is what other stories that he told us were more implicit. Like he told us stories about not getting um call or he actually would get called in for like job interviews because he had a white sounding name. So he actually got that far in the process. And he said, like, this one guy even talked to him on the phone before the interview and was telling him, like, I think you're perfect for our company or whatever, because he actually grew up in Wyoming. So he didn't like sound black either. And then he actually showed up for his interview, and the guy saw that he was black and he just totally lost interest. And Like he never got a call back. So that must have just been that the guy was all worried that he wouldn't fit somehow or that other people wouldn't accept him or who knows. But like a lot of Black people don't even get that far because like I said, the employer or potential employer sees that their name is a Black name and won't even give them a chance. Um, so, like I said, that's why we have affirmative action. That's just a little nudge that an employer might need to think about his biases and take a second look at somebody. So it's sometimes government action like that is needed, but also personal interactions are needed. Like hopefully the day will come where like Black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods won't be so different. So it won't be like such a thing trying to decide what type of a neighborhood to live in. But obviously we're not there yet. So what we just have to do is um, look at these other groups and try to find the things that we have in common. Like I never would have heard those stories or believed them on a more personal level if I hadn't actually gotten to know this Black man in the group. So we should just reach out of our comfort zone or take a second to pause and ask ourselves, what am I assuming here that I shouldn't be assuming? And I guess it's a good thing we're done because my voice is gone.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure over time people will start to realize if they're treated differently too. Because a lot of times I think people just even act out because they're just so filled with resentment and everything because of how they're treated, and it just kind of becomes this vicious circle and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was an interesting topic, and we could probably do whole like a lot of different podcasts kind of about this same type of like different aspects of it. Like, I was just thinking of things that I wanted to kind of comment on along the way, but it would have gotten us too far afield or whatever. But yeah, so let us know what you think about this and what your reaction might be, and what you would like us to think about exploring in future convos with Kim. And yeah, with that, I guess unless you have anything else to say.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I guess we'll see you guys next time. Be sure to like, as in like the video, hit the thumbs up button or the like button. A lot of times I think people just kind of listen to this and don't even really think about it. But to really subscribe helps the algorithm to show it to more people. And I just really appreciate all of you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.